Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Ghislaine Maxwell's stepkids are reportedly completely broken up that the bipedal serpent is in jail. Somehow, I find that hard to believe. You mean to tell me the bipedal serpent who came into your home, broke up your family unit, had your pops leave your mom, and this is the lady that these kids are supposedly broken up about? Sounds to me like they're just using the kids, as usual, as another excuse, as a prop in their play. It's no different than when we hear people like Andrew talk about, well, I was with my daughter, which has been blown out of the water, by the way. We're going to get to that tonight. But it is disgusting the way these people all use their kids. And the fact that Brian Basham is going to stand up there and talk about how Ghislaine Maxwell's stepchildren are broken up, as if that's going to tug on someone's heartstring, as if that's going to make us think, well, you know what? Her stepkids are really broken up about this. I think because of that, we should just let her out. What about all of the broken homes your war on drugs has left in poor neighborhoods throughout the country? All of their kids are broken up. All of their kids grew up in broken homes because of your war on drugs. But you mean to tell me Ghislaine Maxwell deserves to get out of jail? We should be bummed out because Ghislaine Maxwell's stepkids miss her? Well, newsflash, so-called elites, that's part of going to jail. That's part of going to prison. Your family misses you. Your loved ones miss you. And you, in turn, miss out. So, I feel for her stepchildren because, hell, not because of Ghislaine Maxwell being in jail. I feel for her stepchildren for A, that she's their stepmother, and B, that their scummy-ass shitbag dad, who had threatened the mother previously with threats of violence, left them. That's what I feel bad about, not about Ghislaine Maxwell rotting away in jail as we speak, and certainly no heartstrings are being tugged on, at least for me, by this Brian Basham guy and his full-court offensive. Zero chance. And you see what's going on here, right? You see that meaning Ghislaine Maxwell's legal team, is starting to fire back a little bit, right? We have the report of them going to the Belgrave house and two of her lawyers climbing into the small bathtub. Oh, bombshell. So no new bathtub could have been put in there? I mean, we're just going on sources close to Maxwell. What's the evidence, right? So we're going to get into all of that as well later on tonight for the Daily Drop. But for our article today, this afternoon, this whole Maxwell and the stepkids who are heartbroken story is just laughable at best, in my opinion. Laughable at best. They will do anything to try and get this lady out of jail. They will say anything to try and get this lady out of jail. And you see it all comes at a coordinated time, right? First you have the article calling Virginia a prostitute, right on the heels of the prosecutors saying explicitly that these girls were not prostitutes. And then you have the whole Ghislaine Maxwell is being abused in jail routine. Now you have, the bathtub's too small. And then you add to that, Ghislaine's kids miss her. So you see the strategy they're using. They're looking to tug at those heartstrings. They're looking at technicalities. It's not that Prince Andrew wasn't with Virginia. It was the bathtub is too small. My fingers are too fat. And that's what they'll try and do. They'll try and sow seeds of doubt. They'll try and obfuscate. And they'll try and make it out like the story that they're trying to spin to you is the only one that could possibly be true. When in reality, we know that's not the case. We know that the narrative that they've been spinning from the very beginning is trash. We know that they have never provided any receipts for their whereabouts on the nights in question. And we know that every single time that any of these people have had a chance to speak to the authorities, they have not done so. So what are they hiding? What exactly is it that you are hiding? And furthermore, why are all of these scumbags always bringing their kids up or using their kids as an excuse or a so-called alibi? Our article today is from The Sun, and the headline, Sympathy Bid. Ghislaine Maxwell's stepkids heartbroken after her arrest for Epstein charges as husband to pledge $30 million in bail. And I believe that number is $28.5 million to be exact. This article was authored by Katharina Giano and John Lockett. Ghislaine Maxwell's stepkids are reportedly heartbroken that their proxy mother is in jail over Jeffrey Epstein, says one of her PR representatives. Full stop, hold on, bang the brakes, over Jeffrey Epstein? How about taking some personal responsibility for your own behavior? Nobody twisted your arm. Nobody forced you to be around Jeffrey Epstein. Nobody forced you to abuse these girls with him as alleged. Nobody forced you to do any of that, Ghislaine, the bipedal serpent. You did all of that on your own, all right? So let's not blame Jeffrey Epstein here for your own devious behavior. Let's not try and ignore the fact that you had a leadership role, Miss Maxwell. Or should I call you Mrs. Borgerson? This lady is gross. She's never taken any self-responsibility for anything and still projecting like it's all Epstein's fault. Like she was just some shrinking violet that was along for the ride. Brian Basham, a PR executive for Maxwell, said that Maxwell's husband, Scott Borgerson, and his 2 kids from a previous marriage were devastated as Maxwell, 58, continues to sit in a Brooklyn jail. Oh, I'm sure they were devastated. I am sure the homewrecker who came into their home, broke up their family unit, and had their pops leave their mom, I am sure that these kids are heartbroken over it. Furthermore, what the bleepity bleep 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 is Scott Borgerson doing letting his kids be around Ghislaine Maxwell? Imagine being his ex-wife. Imagine that. You find out that your ex-husband has your kids at Ghislaine Maxwell's house. Boy, I'll tell you what. I would have been, my fuse would have been lit and I would have been launched into orbit. I would have ever heard some shit like that. Oh yeah, babe, I just want you to know, I'm dating Casey Anthony now, and I'm gonna have her babysit the kids. What? You're gonna do what? Ghislaine Maxwell around his kids, and the kids are broken up. They really want us to believe that, huh? Bring the kids out for a prop. They're like, all right, jail conditions didn't work out. Bring out the kids. These people have no shame whatsoever. Scott is devastated, and so are his children, because Ghislaine has been their proxy mother, Basham told the Daily Mail. Holy shit, really? Having a serpent as a mother is no mother at all. Usually I'd say that parents for kids are a good thing, right? Any parents for the most part, as long as they aren't abusive and shit like that. But Ghislaine Maxwell as a proxy mother, meaning you chose her as your mother? Yeah, no, not a good idea. Scott Borgerson and his kids are broken up. I don't buy the part about the kids, okay? Scott Borgerson might be broken up. But the kids, I highly doubt it. The kids themselves have tumulted into the public eye, Basham said. Well, I don't think that's cool. I don't think anyone should be bothering Scott Borgerson's kids. I think that's kind of BS, honestly. And anyone who engages in that sort of shit's ridiculous. And I even said that about Andrew's kids and just about any kids involved, right? The sins of the father are not the sins of the child. So nobody should be breaking the balls of these children. Nobody should be jumping on board and hammering Scott Borgerson's kids. Scott Borgerson, on the other hand, for sure. He's the one who brought Ghislaine Maxwell into the children's lives, right? They didn't go out and say, hey, Dad, we think you should be dating Ghislaine Maxwell. So I won't blame the kids, and I think that it's not a good idea to drag the children into this, right? Leave them out of it. Let their father answer for his misdeeds and his miscalculations, but any newspaper outlet or blogger or anyone following this case that tries to mess with someone's kids is part of the problem, not part of the solution. So keep that in mind, folks. They had been living in perfect harmony until this broke, Basham said of Maxwell and her stepchildren. I'm told Scott's kids had to have been taken out of school because of all the attention. What school? Who's going to school right now? Isn't everybody home doing remote schooling? I know that that's happening here in Las Vegas. At least I think it is still. So what does that even mean? They had to be pulled out of school. And furthermore, while, again, I'm certainly not a fan of anyone trashing this dude's kids, at the end of the day, their father is the one to blame. Their father's the one that put them in this situation. Their father's the one that left their mother. Their father's the one that decided to cohabitate and then marry Ghislaine Maxwell. Nobody else. So if you want to be mad at anyone, why don't we go to the crux of the problem and be mad at Scott Borgerson's bitch ass? Basham said he's trying to get Maxwell freed, saying he finds her prosecution to be unfair imprisonment, and Maxwell's treatment in jail as inhumane. You know what I find inhumane? I find the behavior of Ghislaine Maxwell towards all of these girls and women to be inhumane. I find her behavior towards a 16-year-old Annie Farmer to be inhumane. Her jail conditions, far from, folks. We've spoken about them at length. This is what happens in jail. You don't want to go to jail and you don't want to eat bologna sandwiches and you don't want light shined in your eyes? Don't commit crimes. Pretty damn simple. You know, it's like the rules for being an adult, right? Brush your teeth, take a shower, don't do meth. If you do those three things, you're on the right track. This is evil, Basham said of Maxwell, who was jailed for possibly recruiting children for Epstein and his social circle. It's like something out of North Korea, not America. Oh, lay that hyperbole on thick there, Mr. Basham. Again, the invite is open, sir. If you'd like to come onto the podcast, you and I could have a nice conversation about Ghislaine Maxwell's conditions, and then perhaps I can bring on somebody who has faced real jail conditions. And you guys could have a talk about just who is getting the proper treatment and just who gets shit on. Because guess what? The working poor is not being treated correctly in jail, ever. No lawyers, no 13 hours a day to sit around on the computer and look at Discovery. Hordes of other humans smashed in on you like sardines. And always the threat of violence hanging heavy in the air like smoke on a Beijing street. So please, don't tell me about the way Ghislaine Maxwell's being treated. Basham said Maxwell and Borgerson, 44, lived together with Borgerson's 13-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter in a $2.4 million home in Manchester by the Sea, Massachusetts, where they had been chased out of by their neighbors once they found out what sort of scuzzbag Maxwell was. Borgerson had his 2 kids with ex-wife Rebecca, whom he divorced just before moving in with Maxwell. Basham said the kids were shocked to hear the claims that Maxwell recruited girls as young as 14 for Epstein. Oh, they were shocked, huh? They were shocked because this stuff hasn't been out there for decades? Because this stuff wasn't common knowledge? These kids are being abused by being put with these people, in my opinion. These kids should be taken from this dude right away and given to the mother. I mean, why are these kids with Borgerson in the first place? After he threatened his ex-wife Rebecca. After he threatened physical harm to her. Oh, I get it. It's because he has all the dough, right? If you got the dough and you can pay to play, well, you can be the king for a day. Survivors of Epstein claim Maxwell was the mastermind behind underage orgies. There's so many, I don't know where you want me to start. Survivor Virginia Roberts said of the girls involved in Epstein's acts, allegedly recruited by Maxwell. And let's remember, folks, right? We're not talking about someone who was just there hanging out, somebody who was being coerced into her behavior as well. Ghislaine Maxwell went in with eyes wide open. She went into this knowing exactly and explicitly what they were doing. Some people will run around and tell you that Ghislaine Maxwell was a spy. Me? I don't think she was a spy. I think she knew spycraft. She grew up in the world of spycraft, but she was an asset, and she had a job to do. And her job was to work in conjunction with Jeffrey Epstein to help provide for him his own young girls via the Ponzi scheme. And at the same time, on the flip side, they'd run their honey trap operation as well. And they would traffic young girls in that honey trap operation to garner information and dossiers on some of these high-profile people. So yeah, I agree. Ghislaine Maxwell most certainly was a mastermind behind all of this. Maxwell is also preparing a $30 million bail package to get free before Christmas, claims a report that came out this week. And again, we've talked about this, obviously, and I don't see it, right? I don't see how this is going to work out. It's pretty much the same things that Jeffrey Epstein offered. He offered to have a private security company protect him and watch him. He offered $100 million in bail, So I don't see how now all of a sudden things have changed. The one ace in the hole for Ghislaine Maxwell and her team, in my opinion, is this dumbass COVID pandemic. That might give them the leverage that they need. But even with that, I give her a very small percentage chance of getting bail. The majority of the bail package will come from Borgerson, a wealthy former chief executive of Cargometrics, a shipping data company. Maxwell's siblings will then come up with $5 million as well. See, this is a little weird because if you look at Scott Borgerson and you look up his net worth, he's only worth $5 million. So did he sell off assets? Where did he come up with this other $20 million? Or, this is hypothetical here, folks, right? No evidence of this. Did Ghislaine Maxwell have war chests in offshore accounts that nobody knew about for positions such as these? Borgerson easily goes, gets that money, and now that money becomes quote-unquote his. Nobody knows where it came from. Nobody knows how to trace it. Nobody knows its origination or its destination. And that is why these LLCs and all of their offshore nonsense is so important to rein in. Now, again, I don't have evidence that that's where they got this money from, but something smells fishy to me. Scott Borgerson's net worth is only $5 million. Where did he come up with all of this dough, furthermore? If you were one of his kids, wouldn't you be pissed? $25 million to get this disgusting hag out of jail, Dad? Really? This is where you're spending our money? In the middle of a global pandemic, you're going to spend $25 million to bail this disgusting bipedal serpent out of the hoosegow, where she could possibly and more than likely go back in a few months. You mean to tell me you're putting up $25 million, Dad? That's the plan? That's the grand plan you've come up with? With that, I'd be packing my shit and heading to Mom's. How in the hell do you spend $25 million on a bail package for Ghislaine Maxwell? It's a lot of money, but he's a chief executive of his own company. And he's an entrepreneur, Basham said of how Borgerson can come up with the $25 million. So in that context, I can see him having that kind of money. I can't, and I don't buy it. And I'm calling your whole entire story here bullshit, in my opinion, Mr. Basham. That's right, bullshit. That's what it is. That's what your whole narrative is. That's what your whole entire Spring Ghislaine Maxwell plan is. And furthermore, sir, we just discussed how this dude is only his net worth is $5 million. He's not the CEO of Cargometrics anymore either, by the way. And as far as being an entrepreneur, who's going to want to work with this idiot now that he has the fallout of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein lighting his whole entire body up? So yeah, I don't buy that this is a wealthy entrepreneur. They got this money from somewhere. The question is where? As part of the package, Maxwell is to also give up 3 passports and must stay in home confinement. Basham said Maxwell didn't originally flee the United States in August 2019 after Epstein was arrested because she thinks she's innocent. No, let me offer an alternate, okay? Ghislaine Maxwell didn't flee because she thought she was still being protected by the NPA and those on high. She didn't flee because she knows where all of the skeletons are buried. She did not flee because she thought she could leverage all of that into another get-out-of-jail-free card. What she wasn't prepared for, though, was the fact that the walls were going to fall down the way they did and that so many of these girls, these survivors, would come forward and speak out against her. She never expected any of that. And then, when the shit was getting too heavy, shit was getting too deep, she moves to New Hampshire, huh? Makes sense. A federal judge in New York will review the package soon, before Maxwell can leave her Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center jail cell. And again, remember, Judge Nathan hasn't even approved a hearing for this bail yet. She's going to see all of the information, and then we will find out in a few days if she's even going to grant this hearing or not. Still, Basham is trying to remove Borgersons' name from the package as he is getting unwanted attention. Oh, unwanted attention? That train left the station, my friend, the second you got involved with Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, what do these people think? You're going to go get involved with somebody like Ghislaine Maxwell and not expect people to be everywhere trying to get questions from you, answers from you, the whole nine? Especially considering you're talking about putting up $25 million for her? Everybody associated with this is suffering from the lynch mob mentality, Basham said. They are worried, even frightened. People are worried. They are frightened because of the lynch mob. Oh, the lynch mob, huh? Probably should watch the words you're using, okay? Because a lynch mob in America carries different tones, my friend. And the public being outraged over Ghislaine Maxwell's alleged behavior is not a lynch mob. When the pitchforks and the torches get together, my friend, well, then you'll have your mob, but it won't be a lynch mob. It'll be a mob of pissed off people who finally have figured out that the real problem is people like you, Mr. Basham, and all of the other so-called elites who think that they can manipulate the system and live on a different plane than the rest of us. That's what this all comes down to, Mr. Basham. Your elitism, your classism, and your simple disregard for the rules that the rest of us has to follow will no longer be accepted by the quote-unquote lynch mob. Maxwell's lawyer said Maxwell lost at least 20 pounds while in her 9-foot by 7-foot cell. All right, so 20 pounds, so she's at 134. She was weighing in at 154. Damn. She's coming in at lightweight, huh? I don't buy that either. They claim the Federal Bureau of Prisons is trying to make an example out of Maxwell to make up for the fact they did not bring Epstein to justice before his death. The Department of Just Us is perverting the course of justice, Basham said. It's outrageous. There's no reason for her to be in prison, and in fact, there's no reason she should have been arrested. Oh, well, that settles it then. Brian Basham, the greatest lawyer in the history of the world, a man who has his finger on the law, a man who can interpret the law as fast as a speeding bullet and leap judicial buildings in a single bound, has told us that she shouldn't have even been arrested. So, folks, let's pack it all up. We were all wrong. Brian Basham has spoken. Shut up, Brian Basham, okay? Please. That's the nicest way I can say it to you. The way she is being treated is evil. Just evil, Basham continued. The way she is being treated, huh? How about the girls that were abused? Not a mention of them. How about the way they were treated? How about the abuse they suffered? Flashlight in the eyes, passport taken. Give me a break. One girl was so apoplectic, she was ready to swim. Okay? Swim home from that island. You rat bastard. Evil. You want evil? Go take a look in the mirror and go take a look at your good friend Ghislaine. That's evil, my friend. How can you prepare properly for your defense when you are being woken up every 15 minutes with a torch and are sleep deprived, he said, referring to a claim Maxwell's lawyers have made, saying she's being woken up by guards to search her room? A torch? You're not in England, bro. All right? That's called a flashlight in America. Okay? What do you think? You're in some dungeon over in the Tower of London? Dilly dilly! Bitch, you're in America. You're getting blasted with a flashlight. It ain't a torch. And that's how it goes here, okay? You don't want to serve time in American prisons? Bring your bitch ass back to Europe and commit your crimes there. A torch? Is blasting a torch in her face every night. Shut up, torch. After questioning why she wasn't arrested when Epstein was, Basham said it was outrageous she had to procure a $30 million package when Bernie Madoff was only $10 million and he got bail. Bernie Madoff didn't diddle little kids. Okay, is that clear enough for you, Brian Basham? Is that point blank enough for you, Brian Basham? Bernie Madoff also didn't have 2 other passports, citizenship elsewhere, and a whole bevy of rich, disgusting friends who were willing to help him, okay? Regardless, the British socialite, co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, general all-around scuzzbag, and bipedal serpent, legal team will head to court within days to try and win her freedom with the bail package ahead of her trial next year. Good luck. The Daily Telegraph reports Borgerson's $25 million security would be seized if Maxwell went on the run. Maxwell's family, including her brothers Kevin and Ian, are reported to have agreed to post a further $5 million in guarantees. Yeah, what about her nephew Alexander Durasi? What's he putting up to the table to help out good old Aunt Ghislaine, who got him a job at the State Department? Oh, what, you thought we forgot? It's claimed she wants to be bailed under a form of house arrest and will agree to wear an electronic tag. The report in the Telegraph appears to confirm for the first time that Maxwell and Borgerson are married. We knew this. We called it from the jump, right? Wasn't very tough. Wasn't a difficult one to decipher. We didn't need the wind talkers to come and break the code. So the confirmation's good. Right? It's always good for us to get the proper context, and the confirmation that he is her husband is certainly good. Mr. Borgerson has denied dating Maxwell, saying repeatedly that they were just friends. Sure seems like he's proud of his girl, huh? I don't know about you, but if I was ever dating a chick and I said, I wasn't claiming her to my friends and in public, I'm sure there would be a problem. But here, Borgerson, nah, we're not together. What are you, crazy? What are you guys, crazy? Meanwhile, Scott Borgerson, he was originally this CEO for Cargo Metrics, right? And now he's turned into your cousin from Boston. That's basically what he is now. An absolute joke. The reported bail package is one of the largest in recent memory and dwarfs the $1 million bail for shamed Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. Again, different circumstances, okay? Let's talk about the Keith Raniere situation. Why don't we hold that up and look at that as a comparable, not Harvey Weinstein. The news comes just days after Maxwell's lawyers claimed she was losing her hair and suffering weight loss after being caged in solitary confinement. That's called stress. They say Jeffrey Epstein's madam, co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, general all-around scuzzbag, is being subjected to extraordinarily onerous treatment while awaiting trial for alleged sex trafficking. Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to the claims against her. They previously claimed her sleep was being disrupted by flashlight every 15 minutes to check she hadn't tried to commit suicide like the pedo tycoon. Suicide, huh? Air quotes for me. I look, suicide? I'm going to need proof of that, my friends. And Ghislaine Maxwell, look, this is the treatment she has to get. This is where we're at. I've already went through this a million times. If she wasn't being given these extra protections, then people would be crying that they let her die or let something happen to her. And now that there are extra protections in place, they're called draconian. I predicted this from the jump as well. Maxwell's lawyer detailed her apparent deteriorating health in response to a letter from the Federal Bureau of Prisons, stating she is treated well at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. While her weight may currently be fairly consistent, she had lost over 15 pounds, and she is sustaining hair loss, attorney Bobby Sternheim wrote to the U.S. District Judge Allison Nathan, reported the NY Post. Look, she's in jail. What do you think was going to happen? She was going to go there and she was going to put on some lean muscle mass and come out of there looking like a professional bodybuilder? Maxwell's meal plan may currently comply with the Bureau of Prisons policy, but it did not the first 6 weeks of her stay, and she had been isolated and denied educational and leisure programs, religious services, and movies, her lawyer claimed. Well, I didn't know that they had Moloch worshipping and spirit cooking inside of prisons. Isn't that Ghislaine Maxwell's religious leanings? She's certainly not going to play that she's Jewish, right? Because we know she's not practicing that religion. So we're talking about religion. It has to be Satanism, right? Because that's what these people are practicing. Bunch of Moloch worshipping weirdos. It's obvious that Maxwell is bearing the brunt of BOP incompetence, Sternheim wrote. No, let's flip that around. Your client is bearing the brunt of her own incompetence. She's bearing the brunt of her own disgusting-ass behavior. The detention center has imposed extraordinarily onerous conditions of constraint on Miss Maxwell to avoid the catastrophic consequences of negligence occurring at the MCC that resulted in the death of Jeffrey Epstein, Sternheim alleged. Well, I can't really disagree with that, right? There is negligence at that jail, at the one Epstein died at, no doubt about it. But that said, how do you fix that negligence if you don't put new parameters in place? If you don't have new guidelines that have to be followed to safeguard these prisoners? Maxwell awaits trial for her alleged role in the sex trafficking operation of convicted sex offender Epstein, who hanged himself inside his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in August 2019, allegedly. She was arrested in July on charges that she recruited women and girls as young as 14 years old for Epstein to sexually abuse in the mid-90s. Among the most outspoken accusers is Virginia Roberts, who claims Epstein and Maxwell pimped her out and that she was forced to have sex with Maxwell's friend Prince Andrew when she was 17 years old in 2001. The Joe Exotic of the Windsor family has denied these claims. So, there you have it, folks. We should feel bad about Ghislaine Maxwell and her current incarceration because her stepkids are sad. The same stepkids whose life she destroyed when she showed up. The same stepkids whose mother was threatened by this disgusting man of excuse for a man, Borgerson. These same kids are broken up that Ghislaine Maxwell is in the hoosegow, huh? That's what you would have us believe? That's what we should be talking about here? I'm sorry, but it's transparent, it's garbage, and anybody who brings their kids up in a situation like this, uses them as an alibi or anything else, is an absolute piece of human trash, in my opinion. And as far as Ghislaine Maxwell getting bailed out, good luck. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at Bobbycapucci at protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, folks, I'll be back later on tonight with the daily drop. It'll probably be a little bit later considering I'm going to watch some UFC tonight. So unless I do the drop before the fights, expect the drop around 9:30, 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. There will be a flashback episode this afternoon as well. All right, everybody, enjoy your Saturday. I will be back later on, and we will pick up where we left off.